Yo, how's it going everybody? My name is Julian Gutierrez, graphic, web, and motion designer here at Boss Labs. So today we'll be jumping into Adobe Photoshop, going over some of the absolute basics and making a simple YouTube thumbnail to get started. Photoshop has been a tool in my toolbox for about 15 years and has allowed me to express my creativity, and along with that has given me a career as a creative professional. So at the moment I'm not set up for a face cam, so we'll do without one for now. Just in case you're wondering, I've been told that I look like a mix between a young Antonio Banderas and an old Danny Trejo. Anyway, onto Photoshop. So when we first open Photoshop, you're met with the home screen. Most of the stuff on here we can ignore for now. On the left side we have two very self-explanatory buttons, Create New and Open. But you guessed it, create a new Photoshop document or PSD, and open files or previously created PSDs. These options can also be found on the menu bar under File. We'll be creating a new Photoshop file, so I'm going to click on Create New. Here we see the new document window, which looks a bit busy, but we'll be ignoring the presets on the left here. Just know that Photoshop does offer some presets categorized by application. On the right, we'll be setting up our file. YouTube has some custom thumbnail best practices, which will guide us on setting up our document. I'll put those on the screen and link them below. So our width and height are given, 1280 pixels wide, and 720 pixels in height. We'll skip the file type till the end of the video when we export. While we can't set the file size here, both the dimensions of your document and the resolution contribute to the overall file size. I won't go into detail, but best practice for digital files that are going to be used on web is 72 pixels per inch, so that's what we'll be using here. If this file was going to be printed, 300 pixels per inch is normally used. So remember, in many cases, 72 for web, 300 for print. We'll leave everything else as is for now, but quickly for color mode, RGB for web, and CMYK for print. So there it is, Photoshop in all its glory. Let's quickly go over the interface. At the very top, we have the menu bar. Like any other application, the menu bar gives us options grouped in specific categories, which we'll jump into as we use them. Right below that, we have the option bar, which gives us options we can change for individual tools. You'll notice that options change depending on the selected tool. On the left side we have the toolbar or tools panel, where we have our tools. Some things to know is that most tools have a small triangle at the bottom right. That just means that if you click and hold the icon, you can find more tools, usually that perform a similar task to the default tool. You can also find the shortcut of each tool by hovering over the icon and reading the tooltip. The two triangles at the top allow you to expand the tools if needed. Here in the center we have the canvas where we'll be working with all our assets. You can see the bounds that we set for our document in white. Nothing in this outside area will show up in our final file. Also, just like our browser, up here we have tabs of our open files. Since we haven't saved our document, it's still named Untitled, but let's go ahead and save. On the right here, you can see we have a number of panels which we won't really be messing with, except for a very important panel down here, the Layers panel. Photoshop works with layers, meaning like doing paper crafts in grade school, we'll be stacking elements one on top of another and rearranging them to create a final composition. You'll notice that Photoshop starts us off with a background layer. You can choose to use this or not, but just know that a Photoshop file needs at least one layer. It won't let you delete this background layer unless there are others available. Again, we won't be going over every button and option, but in the layers panel we're able to create layers, delete layers, hide and show layers, as well as rearrange layers by clicking and dragging. If you want to rename a layer, double click the title, and type in your new title. Let's put this thumbnail together. So how do we add elements to our document? Well, we can go up to File, Place Embedded, or Place Linked. For now, let's just click Place Embedded. Choose your file and place. As you can see, once we place our element, it is given its own layer. You'll notice a bounding box around the image we just brought in. In this initial state, we can move and resize as needed and either cancel the transform or commit the transform. Now to move and edit the position after the initial commit, we go over to our first tool, the move tool, which allows us to move our layer. Now let's bring in a background. Once again, File, Place Embedded, and we'll choose our file. If you remember when we brought the asset into the document, it had a bounding box where we could move it and resize it. How do we get back to that once we've accepted the initial position and transformation? We use Free Transform, which can be accessed by going to Edit, Free Transform, or using the shortcut Command T or Control T. Learn this one because you'll be using it quite a bit. And there you go, we have our bounding box again. I'm going to resize our background layer. If you notice, we can no longer see our whole bounding box, so we need to zoom out. Several ways we can zoom in Photoshop is using the zoom tool down here, magnifying glass. And we have our two options here, zoom in and zoom out. Another way to zoom is using the keyboard shortcuts, Command or Control plus and minus. Also, if you have the zoom tool selected, you have some options here in the option bar, 100%, fit screen, and full screen. And there we can see our bounding box again. Now what we're looking at here is our background. Let's rearrange our layers to bring the boss back to the front. Most YouTube thumbnails include some sort of text, just to give a hint as to what the video is going to be about. Let's select the uppercase T on the toolbar, which is the text tool. With the tool selected, click once to place some placeholder text. Clicking once on the canvas will create what Photoshop calls point text, which is a single line of text which is often used when typing out a title or headline. If you instead click and drag, a dash box will appear similar to the free transform box. This is paragraph text, used for, paragraphs. Changing the properties of the text can be done before or after placing the text. While having the text tool selected, look at the options bar and you can change the font size, color, etc. After placing the text, you can reselect the text by double clicking the thumbnail on the layer or clicking the text tool while the text layer is selected. You can also toggle the character and paragraphs panel by clicking this option here. Finally, I'll add the Photoshop logo to finish up the thumbnail. To better align the logo, I'll zoom in and pan the image by using the hand tool, or better yet, you can temporarily toggle the hand tool by holding down the spacebar and move by clicking and dragging. What we have now is a PSD of our finished thumbnail, but there's a couple of problems. If we go back to YouTube's custom thumbnail best practices, PSD is not an accepted image format. Also, if we check the PSD file size, it's over the 2 MB limit. In order to solve both these problems, we'll need to export our thumbnail by going to File, Export, Export As. This will open the Export As window where we can see a preview of our thumbnail as well as some settings. Take a look at the right side of the window and there are the settings we're looking for. Here I'm going to set the format to JPEG at 100% quality and leave everything else as is. You can see on the left side that we're going to export an image that's in JPEG format, 1280 by 720, that's 245 kilobytes in file size, well under the 2 megabyte file size limit. You shouldn't have a problem with file size when making a thumbnail, but just know that lowering the quality slider on the right will decrease your file size but start to deteriorate your image. Well, there you have it, an intro to Photoshop. I know it's a lot to go over, but I found that taking on small projects really helps with learning a new tool. Here we went over creating a thumbnail, but you can easily apply the techniques learned here to create a phone wallpaper, a greeting card, even creating your own memes, just to name a few examples. If you have any questions concerning what we talked about here today, or future Photoshop tutorials you would like to see, hit us up in the comments below. We'll see you in the next one.